How are you guys doing today? This is Louis Yanis with WealthNet Investments. I just wanted to give you a few tips. Lately we've been having quite a few meetings regarding retirement planning. Retirement planning is the most complicated decision most people will need to make, and it's also usually the top priority for most people. So for that reason, I thought I would share with you what we have found and what I have found to be the 10 most important tips, I would say, and mistakes that people make, especially executives make, people that have, spent a lifetime creating wealth, and they're now in a position where they're really wanting to go down the runway and come in for a safe landing and have a amazing retirement. And there's some common mistakes that understandably are made, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about some tips on how to overcome them. But first, I'll kind of outline what they are, what the mistakes are. So let's just go ahead and just dive in. First of all, most people, when they think about their retirement, they're thinking about, I really want to capitalize on all of the time and energy that I've spent to work towards my goals. And it's really critical now for me to take care of my nest egg. I want to retire comfortably. I kind of want to fulfill the things that I've always wanted to do that I may not have had time to do. Many executives have just been so focused that it's now time to kind of redirect and think about what's next. So let's just talk about the mistake number one that we often see. The first mistake is making decisions without considering loved ones. So it really kind of goes without saying that everybody wants their future to be secure. They want a carefree time living, and spending and investing time with their family. And, you don't really oftentimes fully consider what spouses want, what children want, grandchildren, and other loved ones. And sometimes, especially if you're in an executive function, really including other people can be not really forgot, but inadvertently overlooked. So my tip that I would have for you there is to, when you're doing your retirement plan, really spend time talking openly about your desires with your spouse, with your children, and kind of what's going on with their lives, and include them in this whole conversation, because that's going to help you make better priorities in the long run. So oftentimes we see that as being a big mistake, making decisions without considering loved ones. The second mistake, and therefore tip I will give you, is first, number one, the mistake is to not set clear priorities. It's very difficult to prioritize when you're thinking about the current things that you need versus the things that you want and desire in the future. So if you're working on educating your children and maybe taking care of a parent, you've got to buy cars, maybe you need to pay down some debt, maybe, you want to do a lot of travel and fun now, making that priority about where all of that fits is part of the retirement planning process. So a lot of times we see two extremes. One extreme would be people really blow away or blow off the now, things that they want right now completely when they don't need to, or, so that they can save for the future. Or we see that people will do just the opposite. They really focus in on making sure that they have fun now and live life to its fullest now, carpe diem, if you will. So there's a balance there. So for many people, my advice there would be to really prioritize, to go through literally everything that you want, like brainstorm it out. And I talk about this extensively in my book, Financial Freedom Blueprint. But, brainstorm everything out, and then you take that, and then you kind of take each goal and you compare it to the other goals, and you move them up and down the list into an order. That is so helpful. We have found that to add a lot of value when you get into the planning process. So that was mistake number two, not setting clear priorities. Mistake number three, unclear goals. So a lot of times we have this kind of nebulous view about what we want in the future. We kind of know what we want in the future, but we really don't know. And it's difficult, really, to know 100%. But if you're not moving in a direction, as we all know, it doesn't get you closer to what you're really looking for. So setting proper goals requires us to be very clear. And what we mean by clear is setting the timing and the amount of funds that you think you're going to need, and getting clear about that. Because if you don't do that, then you really can't set reasonable financial goals. So converting that into the timing and into the amounts, the dollar amounts in today's dollars, is really, really important to get clear on goals. So setting specific goals also asks or requires you to think about your values. So what's important about money to you? Why is that important to you? Answering those types of questions are really good. And having a sounding board when you go through that process is really important, whether it be with your spouse, definitely with your spouse and family members, and then also with your advisors. Very important. Mistake number 4 is an improper view of your net worth. So this is kind of a little bit complicated, and let me just kind of bullet point for you what the biggest things that we see. And the first is not properly valuing or accounting for all of your assets, things that you own, and all of the liabilities, things that you owe. A lot of times they're not really understood clearly in terms of the titling, etc. The other bullet point is not fully considering cash reserves, like how much are you going to need for liquidity. And without a cash flow forecast, you really can't do that. Another thing is not knowing the location or timing of your assets, meaning like what types of investments do you have in what types of accounts and how are they titled. That is crucial to getting a proper retirement plan. Also, not being aware of the ways that you can save on taxes with various account types is a big kind of improper view of your net worth. So my tips to you, there could be a zillion tips. We could do literally a hour video on each one of these. But overall, my tip there would be to do an inventory. Get all of your documents together, and if you want, we can send you a document checklist and you can see what documents you should be looking for. And just look at those documents and then list them out. That would be the first thing to do, and then to find out, like, what are they really worth? How much are they? How liquid are they? How are the returns? How are they titled? Who owns them? So that's really important, and looking at the taxation of all of them. So mistake number 4 was improper view of your net worth. Mistake number 5 and associated tips would be not considering the timing of all your income sources. A lot of times what happens is people have kind of phases in terms of when they will have income at different times when they retire. So depending on when you retire, your Social Security income may not come in at the same time. Your rental income may vary. You may have required minimum distributions that come in at a different time, or your pension income happens at a different time. So having a full view of your timing and the amounts of your income that's expected is super important, because when you do that, then that gives you a clear understanding of what kind of taxes you're going to have and how much money you're going to need to withdraw from your investments. So mistake number 5 is not considering the timing of all income sources properly. Now, the tip associated with that would be to, again, map out, and typically this takes a software program to do that, but put in all of your income sources: Social Security, any pension income, any annuities that you have, requirement distributions, rental property income from businesses, and map it out year by year, and then figure out how much you're going to need. Number 6, mistake number 6 that we see, and associated tips, is underestimating taxes, healthcare, and debt management costs. I threw in the 3 biggest things that we see as mistakes in terms of underestimating expenses. Taxes would be the biggest one. We see a lot of times people just overlook that, but it turns out that the value of the taxes to your net worth, or the reduction to your net worth from taxes, is extremely large, and for most investors and for most retirees. So not having a good handle on how you're managing your taxes, big time important. Secondly is healthcare costs. Healthcare costs typically are larger than people think, and there's usually more premiums that are involved with insurance. There's also more copays than people expect. and there's unexpected expenses with regard to long-term care. So that'd be another one. So debt management costs. So when you do a financial plan, it's important to make sure that your retirement plan has how you're going to deal with your debt, if you have any debt. And if you do, what is the best way to either eliminate that or use it to your benefit? Because debt is not always bad. So those are the biggest mistakes. Mistake number 6, underestimating taxes, healthcare, and debt management costs. So my tips on that would be to do tax planning. After you've mapped everything out, then have a estimate of your taxes done based on that. If you're selling a house, there's taxes associated with that. There's just taxes associated with virtually everything that you decide to do. And on the healthcare side, the tip that I would have there as a rule of thumb is that Fidelity has an interesting study that estimates that the average retiree will spend an additional $300,000 in today's dollars for healthcare expenses. So I would put that in your plan. And debt management, the idea for debt management and how to actually maximize your debt management efficiency would be to make sure that you get rid of high interest debt and to not be over leveraged in your plan. Those are kind of goes without saying. But okay, mistake number 7, inefficient savings and contributions. This is a real biggie because financial security really cannot be achieved, or it can be achieved faster, I should say. It could be achieved faster and easier when you save and contribute in an efficient manner, because there's so many different types of investments that are available and they have different risks and returns. Making a sound choice about how to optimize where you put your savings, which accounts you decide to invest in, and how you set that up is super important. It will make a big difference, or it can make a big difference in your plan. So many executives might need assistance strategically using their employer's plan best to their advantage. So understanding how your employer contributes to it, what they will and will not do depending on what you do, and the benefits that are associated with that. Big importance. So the tip I would have for you there is to really learn or get advice about what are the tax ramifications for each type of investment, and what are the investments inside of those instruments. So we're getting a lot of noise over here, so hopefully that doesn't bother you too much. So a lot of people are actually working from home, and so we're seeing a lot of noise, so I apologize for that. I've never been a big fan of motorcycles. Okay, so let me recap. So let's talk about mistake number 7, inefficient savings and contributions. Financial security can be achieved a lot faster when you save in the right proportions to different accounts based on their efficiency to increase your net worth. And that mostly has to do with the tax ramifications of the investment type, the account type, as well as what type of investments that are in that type of an account that are available to you. So getting real clear about the various returns and risks that are available in each account, and most efficiently managing your savings makes a big difference. So my advice there, my tip there would be to basically understand what your investment options are and understand the tax ramifications of all of your different accounts. Mistake number 8, misaligned investment plan. The misaligned investment plan is super important. Probably one of the biggest things that we're able to add value on is this category. The mix of stocks, bonds, cash, and various asset classes that make up your finances are essential. Since each element of the mix has a different return and risk, the management of your investments is pretty much a very meticulous endeavor. So a sound plan should consider your return requirements, your risk tolerance, your liquidity, your income needs, your taxes, your personal preferences, and any special circumstances. There's a ton of stuff involved with that. So my advice there is to actually ask yourself the question. You may not know your return requirements, but ask yourself, how do I feel about risk from a scale from 1 to 10? 10 being super risky and aggressive. I really want to make money, and I'm okay with large fluctuations in my investments, versus a 1, which would be stick the money under the mattress. That would be one thing. The other thing I would ask myself is, how much income do I have? What's my tax bracket? and what are the implications for my savings and investment for that? Should I be looking at tax-free bonds rather than taxable bonds, for example, in your individual or taxable accounts? Or should I be looking at a tax managed strategy for taxable accounts that look at and take advantage of reduced capital gains exposures and managing taxes from the capital gain perspective to be lower than they would in, say, a more actively managed, faster trading strategy? Maybe you could defer some certain types of interest and dividends in other types of accounts, so where you have it located. I would ask myself that. The other thing I would ask myself is how much liquidity do I need? Liquidity meaning how much do I need access to funds immediately and over what time frames? Big time important. So having a good view on your investment plan should be tied to your financial plan. So mistake number 9 is to overlook adequate protection. So insurance is a necessary evil. So if you don't have the right insurance and you need it, it could be devastating. If you waste money on insurance in an inefficient way, that's also kind of a waste of capital. So one of the things that we see the most is an underestimation of long-term care needs, as well as typically healthcare, life, disability are usually fairly in line, but they may be an issue. So disability, life, and long-term care are the biggies. And make sure that you have adequate protection, because if you don't, then the whole financial plan just blows up. Mistake number 10, last but not least, the biggest mistake that we see, probably the most common, would be not monitoring progress and making adjustments. It does take a little bit of work, but you can get that burden to be lowered when you work with a sound advisor and a process to make it easy. So monitoring your progress, the biggies there would be what's changed in my life. Do I need to make an adjustment because things have changed in my life? There's tons of things that could affect that. Or, very commonly, what's changed in the economy? And how is that affecting the expected return and expected risks in the market, and what should I be adjusting for right now? What's changing with the economy very often affects your taxes and your cost of living via inflation, the return on your investments, and any life-changing things that are happening in your life require an adjustment usually to your financial plan in some way, and it typically will roll all the way down to your investments. So you also may have new goals. That's another real big one. People will have a new goal along the way, and that will require some adjusting. So mistake number 10, not monitoring progress and making adjustments. And the way, the tip I have there is to set yourself up with a disciplined process, or work with an advisor that uses a disciplined process where that all of your assets, liabilities, income, your investments are put into financial planning software so that it can be reviewed at any time. And scenarios can be built. So the key to this one is scenario analysis. Okay, so we have listed now, or I have listed now, the top 10 mistakes that I've seen in years, well over 2 decades of advising clients for retirement planning and helping, various clients. I could think of a story of a client who came to us well over 22 years ago, I believe now, and she didn't have, that much money at that time, and now in the next month she's going to be retiring completely financially independent. And not only that, she sent 3 kids through school, and she has no debt. She's got millions of dollars now, and we've been able to maximize over the years. And then also she has a situation where she's been taking income out for years along the way. Even before fully retiring, she started working part-time. So it can be done. We've seen a lot of different mistakes. So let me just summarize these again. And hopefully these tips can help you So the 10 most dangerous and common mistakes executive makes when they're planning their retirement. Number 1 is making decisions without considering loved ones. Number 2, not setting clear priorities. Number 3, unclear goals. Number 4, improper view of your net worth. Number 5, not considering the timing of all your income sources properly. Number 6, underestimating taxes, healthcare, and debt management costs. Number 7, inefficient savings and contributions. Number 8, misaligned investment plan. Number 9, overlooking adequate protection. And number 10, not monitoring progress and making adjustments along the way. So that's it for now. I hope these tips help you out to just be a resource. We are here as a resource for you to hear about what's going on with you. If you have any questions, you can go to retirereadyscore.com. That's retirereadyscore.com. Or you can give us a call, 720-384-3670, and we'll be glad to talk to you and just give you a second opinion about what you're doing. And if we can help you in a big way, we'd be glad to work with you. My name is Louis Yanis with WealthNet Investments. I hope you got some value out of this. Have a great day.